Namaste. Welcome, beautiful souls.
Mhm.
Welcome to a new series that really is a continuation of a playlist that I created some years ago on the Wild Unknown Tarot. And though this request keeps coming up again and again and again, Sadhana, please talk about the Wild Unknown Tarot. I have done so several times. And in the description box below is a playlist that I will continue adding to until I feel that enough said. And today I'm going to be talking about all of the water cards in the Wild Unknown Tarot. I'm going to be talking about them through the lens of astrology, through the lens of the chakras. I'm going to mention the symbol of the rose. I'm going to talk about the moons that are in the Wild Unknown Tarot and the phase of the moon. So we're going to look at all of the cups, the major arcana associated with the suit of water, and a few other little nuggets as well. You asked for it, so here it is. And I'm going to do this over the next few Saturdays live. And Ostara blessings to each and every one of you. I hope that you caught my Ostara beginning. I started a Decan walk and have posted the first video, and it's just so wonderful to have those Decan cards just sitting right there for me to look at. That Queen of Wands from Melmoline's deck is just amazing. So let's get started right away, and I thought I would start with a reading. And I'm reading from the first edition of the Wild Unknown, which is not the one I'm going to be using for the discussion today because I've already separated out those cards. This is a reading for this new phase, this new beginning that we were in. You know, last night when I went outside and was going to walk Amber, it just feels different. The frogs are louder, the air smells different. I swear that spring, the energy of the equinox is known by all the plants. It smelled like dirt outside. It was so beautiful, so beautiful. And that's one of my favorite things when I walk Amber at night is to listen to the frogs. They were so loud and it was so glorious. So happy spring, Ostara blessings to each and every one of you. Let's look to the Two of Wands for inspiration. The Two of Wands as the card of this decan, as one of a gateway that is opening, asking us to act and to respond and to feel the emphatic energy of Mars that is this decan, and fire, to be courageous enough to lead. And so how might we best approach this? Is there a particular energy of this day that we should be mindful of? And as always, I ask this message be in the highest for the greatest good, and that no harm be done. So be it. First edition is a little bit clunkier than the other decks. Hello, Angela and Donna and Mary Beth. Welcome to all of you. All right, where are you, Two of Wands? Where are you? Well, we're going to talk about cups today. That would be very funny if you were here. Love that Four of Wands card. Okay, so Two of Wands is in the pile of the topic for today. I am going to talk about moon phases, and this is something that's really kind of interesting in this deck, but at the bottom of this pile of water is the Sun of Pentacles. To me, this always looks like he's looking into a pond, looking into a reflection. And so underneath this whole pile of energy, we have one of reflection, contemplation, mindfulness. Mindfulness. And it's funny that I said my intention for today is to plan my garden, not so much as get in there and start digging, but to have a really good look about what it is that I want to cultivate this year. And I think in every way. It's funny, even the flies are out. Amber's chasing flies. She's trying to, she likes to try to catch them. She's so funny. And I do apologize because of the lines on this deck. The camera tends to do really funky things with the Wild Unknown Tarot. It's not one of the greatest decks to show on the screen. So if you have to look away from time to time. So one of the things about this particular Two of Wands that I love is the red energy at the tips. The two wands come together, focused, saying, let's do this. Also, the two wands, I know the bottom isn't closed, but are in the shape of the upward facing fire triangle. So here we are bringing two things together. If we look at the card on the left and the card at the right as the left wand and the right wand, we have this beautiful energy of the heart on the left. I don't know if you've heard me talk about this card, but one of the sort of big aha moments with the Five of Pentacles in this deck was that indeed the wilted rose becomes the heart. The Five Pentacles are like pearls on a necklace, beads on a necklace. And there's something here about a tremendous sadness in the heart space. And this was a huge transformation for me from seeing this as the wilted rose sort of at the bottom of something, the bottom of a well. And Five of Pentacles does have some sadness about it. But what are we going to do to move through this? And I think what we're going to do is we're going to bring this sadness together and change that word. Loss, disappointment, whatever it is you need to leave behind. We're going to embrace this energy of the Four of Wands in order to go through. We're going to create a new foundation through fire. We're going to create a new foundation based on a plan, really. And if you think about the suit of fire as the suit of your purpose, your life purpose, your dharma. And so we're really going to come together, bring our energy together. Maybe it's creativity for you. Maybe you're going to do this creatively, but some kind of energy. You're going to bring it together to create a new foundation that is one that's going to charge you, almost supercharge you to go ahead. This, to me, feels like the beginning of a dream catcher, something that is very, wow. If you've never made a dream catcher and have thought about making one, it is a wonderful project. It comes together quite quickly and it feels, it's hard to describe, it's like knitting together pieces of the land, the sticks. And if you get some lovely kind of string that's natural based, doesn't have any bleach or anything in it, it's or some beautiful yarn. It's wonderful exercise. Now, also, we have this blue light, which is the hottest part of the fire, shining through. And the hottest part of the fire, and hello Dee, welcome to you, by the way. The hottest part of the fire could also represent the blue of the goddess, the blue of Venus, because this is the decan of Venus, and she shows up here to support us in our strength, in our fire. saying that let's not get carried away with all these flames, because then you're going to cause a bit of a destruction. But let your receptivity, your divine feminine shine through. And I really like that perhaps that this divine feminine on the right will have an effect on the divine feminine symbol on the left and allow that head to be raised once again. Now, once a rose has wilted, it's not going to stand up, but that's just a metaphorical symbol for the divine feminine, or even the heart. And so how can we help the heart to feel a lot better? We can help the heart to feel a lot better by doing things that warm us. How about let's start with that? Go for a vigorous walk. This new foundation needs to be based in energy, and it needs to feel dynamic. It needs to feel dynamic. I asked what these two wands represent, and they represent the coming together, or the acknowledgement of how important lighting the fire is for the healing. Two majors are on either side of that. The right is the wheel, and the left is the devil. And you could add a really interesting layer of meaning to both of the sides of this reading through that, in that the instigation of the action, the instigation of fire, creativity, is indeed going to bring about change. It's going to perhaps speed up the turning of the wheel. And when I see the sadness in the Five of Pentacles next to the devil, I'm also noticing 5, 5, 5, 5. I know in these sorts of decks, we usually do the number associations by reduction. In the older tradition of the tarot, it's done by the second number. And so there's something here about the 5, 5. And perhaps the honoring of the pentacle itself, the 5 points of the pentacle. I feel like, and even the devil has fire beneath its hooves. Maybe that goat is recognizing that you've been a little stubborn here in letting things go. And I like the direction the goat is facing. All right. So just think about this. What can you bring to the present moment to add a little fire to your day? It's a really nice interpretation, Donna. Yeah, thank you. All right, I do not want to mix up these two decks. So on the table, if I do bring out these chakra cards, these are from Soul Trees. And I'm going to talk a little bit about moons. And these are from Living Wheel, Patrick Fogarty's Living Wheel astrology deck. Okay. How far are you away from your allotment, D? Is it convenient? All right, so I know this is a really challenging card for a lot of people. And I want to, I thought I had these organized, but maybe not. Okay, let's do something here. So I want to start with just going through the cards that we're going to discuss today. So this is the Chariot. Maybe thinking about why that pentacle is on the chain around the neck. And I also want to consider what's going on here with the High Priestess and the Chariot, the Moon and the Sun, and the High Priestess as the symbolic moon in the Tarot, the Chariot as the sign of Cancer. And then we have 2, 3, and 4 of Cups as the decans of Cancer. And these are symbolic of the early part of the journey through the Suit of Cups, whether we look at it decanically or we simply look at it as the beginning of the Suit of Cups. Ooh, that's lovely, Dee. So the beginning of the emotional journey, the beginning of the water journey, and also the beginning of the journey to understanding and awakening the sacral chakra. So why bring in chakra associations when we are talking about the Wild Unknown Tarot? Kim Krans is a yogi. Kim Krans was a yogi, is a yogi, and she teaches Yoga Nidra. She uses these references and associations in her deck. So there's always something through these yogic metaphors that we can bring into the understanding of the Wild Unknown Tarot. And then our fixed sign is Scorpio, which is ruled by Jupiter. That is not a water card. It is a fire card. At least when I sort the major arcana into elements, I put it in the fire pile. And those are the 5, the 6, and the 7 of cups. So we're going to look at those cards in terms of the mutable sign of Scorpio, the deep work of Scorpio. And Pisces, also ruled by Jupiter. So this is something really interesting in that we have 2 mutable. So in the water signs, 2 of them are ruled by Jupiter. No, it's not. It's ruled by Mars. It's ruled by Mars. It's ruled by Mars. Sorry, guys. I've been just doing too many. So we need to have the Tower card up here. Sorry. Scorpio is ruled by Mars. I take that back. 5, 6, and 7. And I will pull that Tower card out for you. Okay, so ruled by Mars, which is also the ruler of Aries. Okay. And indeed, the moon in the classical system is ruled by Jupiter, which is this card, which is not a water card. So how interesting, right? That 2 of the water signs are ruled by hot and spicy majors. So that's really cool. Then we have 8, 9, and 10 of cups. So we'll be looking at all of these cards. And then in addition, we have the water card of the Hanged Man. And this card has a lot of connections. Some people associate this with Neptune. Others put this in... so this is primordial water, the symbol of primordial water in the Golden Dawn system. And there's a lot of very interesting connections here. Donna and I have had an ongoing email exchange back and forth about the a reflection on beauty that I began a few years ago on this channel. And interesting that this card came up. Daughter of Cups, Father of Cups, Son of Cups, Mother of Cups. So we'll be looking at all of these cards here as well in terms of the suit of water and, of course, the Ace of Cups. The Ace of Cups. So what is this? What is the Ace of Cups? Let's begin here. All of the aces are a gift. They are a wonderful card to come into a reading. And and it's funny, I read this, I don't know whose post it was on. I'm doing so many different studies these days because I've started my Minkyate series and things like that. But I want to look at how the page receives the cup. The aces must be received. And what is the Page of Cups or the Daughter of Cups doing with the cup? Well, she is in the water. And you could look at if this is a pond, this could be a lake, this could be the ocean. And she is, or they are, in the cup. They are in the water. And there is an energy in that water that feels really fulfilling. It is your Long Shadows Tarot, welcome to you. You said, 3 a.m. Tarot has been covering the cups in her newsletter. I really love how she's covered the cards so far. Thank you for sharing that. So what I feel in this Page of Cups is that she's fully embraced the element and understands and feels the magic of the element. Now, I want to go back to this whole notion of the sacral chakra in terms of all of these water cards. So the element of water is associated with the sacral chakra. And this is the most difficult chakra. It is one where we are in this place of duality. We are confronted with every relationship. Every relationship in our lives brings up something in the sacral chakra. There is a reason we have 2 ovaries and 2 testes, and in the chakra symbol for this particular, don't have it right here, for this particular, the symbol for this one, we have a crescent moon on its back. And on top of those 2 tips of the crescent moon are 2 lotuses, very symbolic of the 2 body parts that I just mentioned. And so this also is the water of the amniotic fluid. It is the water through which everything is birthed, whether it is indeed a human or an animal or something metaphorical. We move through the body of this particular suit. We move through the energy of this particular suit to come into something. There is a necessity for feeling to experience what feelings are in order to birth something. And this has so many layers to it. And I've been trying to unpack this. I offered a mini series. It's ongoing. The 2nd episode is tomorrow. And I talked about this a little bit in my Advent calendar series about how important it is to experience range of emotions. And one of the reasons that emotions arise is so that we can learn to experience the opposite emotion. And I believe that Kim does a really good job. Kim Kranz, the creator of the World Unknown Tarot, does a really good job in expressing this in this particular tarot. I think it's really interesting how that line work on this particular cup. It almost looks like animal fur to me. It's a little bit of a strange illustration in that way. I see this, there's snake skin and animal fur, and I think it connects in a beautiful way to the animals in this deck. Almost looks like a little bit like the short lines on the duckling that we see here. So, Daughter of Cups. If you want to bring in Golden Dawn associations, both the ace and the daughters, the princesses or the pages, are their strongest over the fixed signs. So this would bring in the energy of Scorpio. And Scorpio is a sign that is so potently connected to the sacral chakra. It is one that asks us to learn to be brave enough to dive deep into the pond to discover what is down there in the muck. It wants us to discover that. It wants us to bring it to the surface. It wants us to bring it to the surface and digest it. Yeah. And so death as a symbol for Scorpio is really potent. And you'll notice here that indeed this is a duck. And so I don't know if you've noticed this connection before, that what is dying is an old version of how we navigated a particular emotion. And I just, when I see it, it's just like I get this lump in my throat when I'm looking at these connections, because it makes me understand how important all of them are and how beautifully they are built in here. Okay. Okay. One thing I want to get right off the top here is the moons in this particular deck. Just in case I forget to mention this. I don't know. I mean, I want to believe that everything is intentional. Not that this was just the way that Kim likes to draw the moon. But all of the moons, all of the crescent moons, except for one, are waning. Which tells me something. It tells me that this is the importance of letting go, the importance of release is integral to the medicine of this deck. And the only crescent moon in this deck that is waxing is on the wheel card. And if you don't believe me, have a look yourself. Go through and check it out. Now, this deck was created in the Northern Hemisphere, so this is the way that I'm going to read it. If you are a follower from the Southern Hemisphere, you know, this is going to look a little bit differently. 2, 3, and 4 of Cups. If we're looking at astrological connections, decanic rulers, we have Venus and Mercury and the moon. Really like, now, the moon does not appear on all the moon decans. I have to say that, unfortunately. So whether or not these astrological correspondences were, you know, at that time in the forefront of Kim's mind, I don't know. we can sort of unpack that and come up with something later on. Okay, Donna, you're so kind. All right, so here we have the rose, and this is the only other rose in this deck. So we have the rose in the heart space of the Five of Pentacles, and the rose, two roses, in the Two of Cups. The rose is a symbol of the Divine Feminine. And in one card, the Divine Feminine is broken, really. She is heartbroken. And in the other, there is a beauty. The rose is cut, so it's not going to live very long. That's also something interesting. That reminds me of an observation from Waite Smith and the Six of Cups, that all of those flowers are cut. So, yeah. All right, so two roses, and Venus, Decan is Venus, symbol of love. It is red, right? So there's this connection to the blood. It is heartfelt. Two hearts, right? Two hearts coming together. Now, why the darkness in the background? There's, I think, a couple different ways we can interpret darkness. And that, remember that everything depends on the question that you are asking and the way that you are forming the reading. And also on all of the connecting cards. I mean, if you did a reading and all of the backgrounds on all of the cards in your 9 card were, all of the backgrounds on your 9 card were black, that would really come to my attention. If there was a variety of backgrounds, or maybe all of the backgrounds were like this one, half black, half white, half dark, half light, then that might say something else. The sanctity of marriage, there's certainly something to that. And my expansion of the interpretation of the tarot has, it's wandered through a lot of different tarot systems. And when you say that comment, I'm thinking about the card of love in the Minchiate Tarot. That's what your comment makes me think of. Or in really, yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that came to mind when I read your comment. And I'm thinking that I see you, you see me. And, when I say namaste, namaste means I see you. I see your light. I see my light in you. There's this energy of reflection. And there are 3 leaves here. There's actually 5. I don't know if I can do anything with the leaves. One is open a little more than the other. I mean, there's so many little details you could pick up on in these cards. So why are they black? I didn't answer that question. Black, darkness, is associated with the goddess. So it could be picking up on that Venusian energy. It also is a place where we tend to share our heart the most, right? Kim Kranz's boated game is called Renunciation. She's very interesting in letting go, because to win the game you must lose. Oh wow, that's really something, Dee. I didn't know that. So in the darkness, in the night, is when we tend to share the most intimate things with one that we love. It's funny that way. So there's something there. And if you look at these 3 cup cards, I'm seeing this one as nighttime. This one is definitely in the day. It feels like the sun has risen not too long ago. And this one is half dark and half light. Perhaps we also have, there's a question here of light versus dark. So very different energy in that way in each of the 2, 3, and 4 of cups. I will come back to them. Chariot. Chariot is ruled by the moon, and the moon card in the tarot is the High Priestess. So we have two really powerful, fiery animals here. Two fiery animals that harmonize. So fire and water. These are water cards. So they're, in a way, there's a bit of a kind of a temperance energy going on here, a harmony, a balance of energy with these two strong animals holding space for all of this water. It is really difficult to hold space for water. Sorry, I'm laughing. Amber is still, my dog, is still trying to catch this fly that is here. Oh my goodness. I'm just going to message my daughter. She's outside to come and get Amber. Oh, that's funny. Poor doggy. Water needs a container. And it's really difficult to hold space for water. So, depending on what you are dealing with, the size of the container will need to vary. Yeah. Okay. The High Priestess is in the darkness, right? So she is the representative of the goddess. We do have the moon symbol there. And she is so regal. Let's use the pronoun they, are so regal. Almost as if the tiger itself illuminates the darkness. In contrast with the solar energy here, right? The Chariot is it's a card of action. Go on. Go on. Up you go. 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 Trouble of going live, distracted by things, including the dog. So we have in these two cards a contrast of fire and water. Really good question. Wouldn't fire destroy water if it is part of a containment system? It might turn it to air. What I'm thinking of is how fire heats air. And this is another thing too, when you're looking at your readings, you're looking at the interaction of the elements. And I know sometimes we've talked about because water also can be ice, it can be steam. And so that might be something that indeed you want to look at. That's a really interesting comment. Okay, so fire and water action going forth. Now, because there's a piece of something that is missed in this particular Chariot card, and I believe that Kim Krans does say this is inspired by the Waite-Smith Tarot. It's been ages since I've read her guidebook. And so we only have the horse here. And so my question is, what is the symbol of the two sphinxes, or the other two parts of the Chariot card? I feel like the sun in the background is an impetus that moves the Chariot forward, but it's the pentacle on the chain that really has my attention, and I want to look at this pentacle and the other pentacles that arise in a reading to understand what's going on here. And the way that I interpret the pentacle on the chain is that the pentacle is a symbol of all of the elements coming together. Right. And I think, Donna, all of these observations are really beautiful. And like I said, it depends on the surrounding cards and it depends on the question that's being asked in the reading and all of this. So the pentacle is contained here. It is contained, it is held in this circle, and it represents something coming together. And this horse has the symbol of the moon on the forehead. The sun is above. And so we have the masculine and the feminine, like the white sphinx and the black sphinx, represented here. So it is all here. Okay? So water. 2, 3. Let's go back to these cards. Did you know that 3 of Cups is a Mercury decan? And when I look at this card and I think of Mercury, I think of the chatter of these birds. I think of communication, and I think of joyful communication. I think of rather fiery communication, maybe even something that's waking us up. I've always had a difficult time with the energy of Mercury in this deck, and the thing that is kind of beautiful, so I'm sure you're aware, so this is Venus, this is Mercury, and this is Moon. That's the way the decans work. If you know the Tree of Life, the first decan is Mars, Gebra 6 is Sun, and then it goes down to Venus, Mercury, Moon, and Saturn. It follows this pattern on the Tree of Life. The decan order of the cards, also the Chaldean order. But anyway, this is Mercury. Mercury harmonizes water. And so again, we have something, not water, sorry, Venus. And there's something here about the dark and the light, acknowledging the harmony of these 2 particular cards. Saying something, I feel like there's something here about we want to honor relationship, but also there's other kinds of relationships. And in the 3, something, 3s are always about growth. And I like that it almost looks like the birds coming out in spring when there's only tiny, tiny buds on the trees. There's not much on the trees. Symbolic of the first 3, the 3 of new beginnings, things like that. So I think it really works here. The 4 of Cups. So this one, I know a lot of people really, really dislike this card. The symbol of the rat. This rat is so big. I think it would knock over these glasses. I think it would break these glasses. But why the rat? And what is going on here? Right? This is kind of challenging. Would you excuse me just for a moment here, please? So remember I talked about the moon and that all of these waning moons in this deck, I think that waning moon is really symbolic of letting go. Rats tend to hoard. That is one of the characteristics. And just before we came on, this is one of the books that I like to look at when I'm just reviewing animal energy. Didn't really pick up anything new, but was checking in here. So there's a hoarding energy to rats. You know, they eat anything. They whatever is around them is fine. They will consume whatever is around. They don't care, and it feels like there's a fullness to the rat. So the rat is really important here. Did I mark this page? I think there was one thing I wanted to read. If rat is your power animal, you tend to hoard your belongings because they help you feel more secure. So in that way, we want to hold on to the contents of the water, the emotions. We are not comfortable with letting them go, because if we let go, we don't know what's going to happen. We've been holding on for so long, and this idea of stagnancy in the fours is really important, hence the fives. The fives break us out of our stagnancy. And so it's kind of smelly in this card. The water is not fresh, and we are not feeling very well in this card. And we're just holding on. We're afraid to let go. Because it's easier. It's what we know. It's comfortable. And I think we're tired. We're just not well here. Yeah, and the gift of the light is not reaching the rat. You are so right. So, it's hard to see. Perspective is really hard to gain in the Four of Cups. It's why, we kind of see this energy. Just go away. Don't offer me any more advice. I don't need any advice. I don't want to hear you. Just leave me alone. It's that kind of feeling, when really the best thing that we could do is get a little dose of sunshine and get out of the darkness and, put our face up to the sun. So yeah, it's a really hard place to be. And, when I think about this in terms of the sacral chakra, this is when, there can be all kinds of things here. We can experience, like physically, like bloating, various kinds of cramping and discomfort of all kinds. When a lot of water cards show up in a reading, and depending if I'm reading for a woman who is still experiencing her moon cycle, then this is a discussion that I most certainly have, and talk about the movement of the moon in terms of the movement of your blood moon cycle. So this is a really important connection here. I will get the Tower card out for you. When I look at this one, this is Six of Cups, middle decan of Scorpio. I'm thinking of when I think of Scorpio, I think of going under, going under, going inside, going down to the bottom. And in this card, we see that there is magic, there is life, there is light, there is medicine in going down into the depths. And almost as if we trust that what is in the depths here will be part of the healing. When I look at this particular tower card, it reminds me of the after a forest fire, there are so many nutrients available for new life on the forest floor. Forest fires serve an important part of renewal of life and renewal of the forest. And of course, we can take this card apart at many, many layers. But this whole group of cards has this energy of a purpose of renewal. There's something that needs to be broken down so that we can indeed feel renewed. And this is one of the gifts for me of doing many Decan walks, of really reflecting on the layers of the tarot again and again. Yeah. So 5 of Cups. So here again, we have this figure looking into the darkness. The light is above. We're not seeing the energy of the light above. There's a weight. It's almost like there is a magnet pulling us down. You know, I have to say, Dee, that where I live, the squirrels are so abundant and so close, they aren't loved. They're a problem. They really are a problem. So I think it depends where you live, but I understand. I understand what you're saying. It is funny. Good point, Donna. I want to stay on course here. So it's almost like there's a magnet. There's a weight that is pulling us, our focus, into the darkness. However, that is exactly where, in terms of the Scorpio energy, our focus needs to be. We need to be having a hard look at what's going on with the shadow, with our issues that we keep repeating over and over and over again. I don't think the 5 of Cups is just about just turning, noticing that 2 cups are upright and moving on. I don't know if there is a card, but I imagine a card where in the 5 of Cups there are, let's say there's 2 upright and there's 3 that are spilled. And we actually turn to the 3 spilled cups and we have a good look at them. We clean up the mess, or maybe we walk through and we kick them away. But there's some sort of response that is necessary to look at the darkness before we turn and acknowledge the light. I think in this energy of Scorpio, we are being asked indeed to reflect on our challenges, not to hide them under the carpet, not to sweep them under the carpet, but to have a good, hard look. Because if we look at the darkness, we're going to discover that there is indeed some medicine and some light in the darkness. Look at what is on the bottom of all of these cards. It tells a story. It tells a story. If we look at the patterns of our past, of our ancestors, the things that generation after generation in this family keep repeating, oh my God, why can nobody stop this pattern? I posted on, I'm Mary Beth, it's so interesting how you saw that comment. I posted on a friend's wall about a family that was, one member of the family was in the hospital. I think it's heart condition, very, very ill. And she talked about how the family is unable to resolve this petty matter. Nobody's able to give in. Nobody's able to let go. Everybody's holding on to a grudge. And it just reminds me of what detriment these grudges are. And this idea of grudges is one of holding on. It's not one of letting go. And as I said, this is a deck of very much letting go. 7 of Cups is such another challenging card. Okay, so so this is Mars 3 times, this is Venus 2 times, this is Sun 2 times. And it's really interesting in this part of the astrological wheel how we have so many double cards, and in this case a triple card. So here we have Venus, Venus, Mars. Venus, Venus, Mars. That's the combo of planetary associations. So Venus is trying to overpower Mars. That's one way you could look at it. Again, we have the moon of letting go. Very close indeed to the moon of new beginnings, but definitely a reminder of letting go. And then on the other side of the horizon, and if you have one of those apps, do you have one of those apps where you can go out at night and look at the stars and you can see the constellations and then you can see below the horizon and what's about ready to come up above the horizon? Really cool. Well, here we see the sun below the horizon. The sun too shall rise, this too shall pass. We have a 6 plus a 1, which is an interesting thing to look at. Certainly I might talk about what one thing, if we let one thing go, would this change things? And sometimes, when we let one thing go, it's easier to let the next thing go. Another thing that comes to mind is that, and I will do this in a subsequent video, is that we have a lot of mountains in this deck. A lot of mountains. And here I am seeing the shape of a mountain. And a lot of these mountains look insurmountable. How many of you read Lenormand? Right? You know the mountain card in Lenormand. Sometimes we can't take the path that is straight ahead because it is just too difficult to traverse. We have to find a path to go around. We have to find an easier path. And I think part of that easier path is letting go of one thing, not carrying such a heavy pack. You can walk the El Camino de Santiago if your pack isn't too heavy. You know, you can put lots of different situations here. So I find a brilliance in the simplicity of the limited number of symbols in this deck. And if you respond to Donna's comment there about it looks like he is drinking out of a trough. Well, the trough is, I hope, on most farms, it's clean. But I like that, Donna, because I feel that it's nourishing. It's nourishing. What's going on, drinking out of the trough. Maybe, one of the greatest, most common thread through a lot of health issues is dehydration. And yes, we have lots of fun things we can do with turning these cards up and turning these cards down. What happens in the Eight of Cups? Interesting, isn't it? Very interesting. And I want to look at one other thing. Are these sorted? That is wands. I want swords. I'm looking for the Seven of Swords. That's what I'm looking for. Some of you will know why I'm looking for the Seven of Swords. Seven of Cups, Seven of Swords. In both of these cards, there's a 1 versus 6 thing going on. And I'm going to deal with swords next, so I'm going to just let this go. But Seven of Swords decanically precedes Eight of Cups. But I think it's just so interesting about the mountain being obscured in the Seven of Cups, and then the mountain is in full focus in the Eight of Cups. And somehow in Eight of Cups, all of the cups are broken. Like, wow, good on you. Good on you. And so now there's light on the other side of the mountain. It is an enormous mountain. Mountains also have a connection to spirituality. The higher we climb, the closer we get to God. Right? It's a different peaks, different path, but it's a mountain nonetheless. So yeah, you're going to choose a path. and find a way through. And you will find a way through. Eights speak to the discernment of Mercury. There is an impetus of energy in the symbol of the lemniscate. Now, this is also a Saturnian decan. So your relationship with boundaries and borders, your relationship with suppression is very important here. And going back to the sacral chakra, one of the most detrimental things we can do with our feelings is to suppress them. And it feels like there has been a lesson learned, and we've just said, okay, there's nothing more I can do. I'm going to let go. We still have a waning moon. And in that way, this is a really beautiful Nine of Cups. We see the full circle. We've come full circle. There's lovely energy here. There's a pale blue and a soft red. You can speak to various things going on. Now, I don't know what your level of understanding of the chakras is, but one of the most healing medicines for the sacral chakra is the voice, is the throat. And when I look at the water here, it just reminds me of that transition from the sacral chakra, from Swadhisthana to Vishuddhi chakra. So there's something kind of beautiful there. Also, we've come full circle. And the energy of the moon is part of that. I feel like that also acknowledges the moon phases, that not any one of these is any more important than the other. Just a general softness here. This is a really important decan. So Jupiter is the classical ruler of Pisces. And this is also a Jupiter decan. It's also a central decan. And in that way, I really feel like there's a great deal of wisdom that is being called here. How about I pull out all the moon cards and we'll have a look at that, okay? The colors of the moons. And so I appreciate this particular card. And then in the 10, it's a reminder again that we need to let go. We need to release all of this energy. This is a martial decan. We need to get going. And there is a tremendous amount of beauty here, and the rainbow of all of these colors, and the lovely conversation, all that's happening. There are brilliant connections. I think this is a symbol of deep understanding, but it certainly does emphasize the movement of the wheel. And I think this is not unintentional here, that in the 10 of Cups, this is the wheel of water. And water must move. In order for water to be healthy, it must continue to flow. There could be a full moon behind. You could interpret this white space behind as a number of different things. And I think that's one of the beauties of this deck is that, some of it you might today see a well, you might see a trough, you might see a hole, you might see a blouse. Every day you're going to see something different, and that is okay. That is exactly what it needs to be for the reading that you are doing. And this dynamic energy in the Ten of Cups feels like Mars stepping into position, saying, okay, let's get this going. We need to fire things up here. We're at the end of a cycle, and it's time to get moving to start all over again in the Two of Wands. So lots of possibilities for interpretation. All right, moon colors. And let's have a look at all of these. Okay, some are white, some are gold. Moon. Full moon. Let's put these eclipses all together. So all of the full moons are eclipsed. Except, well, no, that's not true. So because sometimes it's implied in the background of some cards. Okay, so your question was about the color of the moon, and we cannot see black moons. So what that says to me, because there is a black moon here and a black moon here, that is an artistic choice. Ratty has a black moon. Where is Ratty? Is Ratty here? I'll trust you on that. I really think that the moon is colored black simply because it can't be colored white here. And that there may be a reason why if this moon were gold, it would take away from the challenge of this card. A gold moon feels a little more optimistic than a black moon. So, yeah, I don't think I can read anything more into it. The moon over the 7 is yellow. That's really interesting. I don't really think I've thought about the colors of the moons. So some are gold, some are white, some are black. And all of the obvious full moons are eclipsed. So I think in Chariot, yes, that is sun, but there's a moon here. There's a moon on the third eye. So I think in summary that there is a general theme of release. And I think that is really quite something that Dee found, that game that Kim has created. So that's kind of fun. All right, so let's carry on this discussion next time. And I want to bring in all of the air cards, the suit of swords, the other super challenging suit, and we'll go on from there. I really appreciate all of your addition to this discussion. It makes it so interesting. Thank you. And I hope that those of you who have been requesting discussion of this deck, that this is giving you what you need. Thanks so much. Have a lovely rest of your weekend. Ostara blessings to you all. Namaste.